Most people think burnout means you're weak. The truth is different. Burnout is evidence you were strong for way too long. You carried weights that weren't even yours. You held the line when you should have let go. You kept showing up when your body was screaming stop. And you convinced yourself that holding it all together was the only option. Burnout isn't collapse. It's the receipt. Proof you already paid the price with your health, your peace, your spark. Here's the part nobody tells you. Burnout doesn't always look dramatic. It doesn't always look like crying in the bathroom or throwing your laptop across the room. Sometimes burnout looks like silence. It looks like you sitting in a meeting, nodding along, while inside you feel completely hollow. It looks like laughing at a joke with your friends while your brain whispers, you don't even care. It looks like functioning on the outside while you're slowly dying on the inside. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because nobody calls it what it really is. They just call you strong or reliable or hardworking. But what they're really saying is, thanks for destroying yourself so the rest of us don't have to. Burnout isn't weakness. It's your body finally telling the truth after years of lies. And the scariest part, most people don't even notice they're in it until it's too late. Chapter 2, the culture of glorified exhaustion. Most people don't even realize how sick our culture is. We treat exhaustion like a trophy. We clap for the person who brags about their 14-hour workday. We envy the student who pulls 3 all-nighters in a row. We repost quotes about sleep when you're dead like it's wisdom. Think about how insane that is. We celebrate people who are literally destroying themselves in real time. You see it everywhere. In offices, on social media, in schools. It's become normal to flex about being tired. Someone says, man, I only slept 3 hours. And instead of being concerned, we call them a beast, a legend, someone to admire. Another person says, I've been grinding nonstop, and we call them disciplined, dedicated. But if you strip away the applause, what are we actually looking at? A human body being treated like disposable machinery. Here's the trap. We don't just admire it in others. We start performing it ourselves. We exaggerate how busy we are. We pretend we're drowning in work because somewhere deep down we think if we're not exhausted, we're not important. We confuse self-destruction with ambition. And the sad truth is, the world is built to keep us that way. Companies want you hooked on busyness. Apps want you addicted to doom scrolling. Society wants you too tired to question why you feel so empty. But here's the joke. No one tells you the applause is temporary. You'll kill yourself to look impressive, but nobody's clapping when you crash. Nobody's cheering when your health collapses. Nobody's there when you're lying awake at 3 a.m. with a chest that feels like it's caving in. They love the highlight reel of your grind. They don't want the footage of your breakdown. And the worst part? We've been trained to think this is normal. Like being constantly tired, constantly wired, constantly running on caffeine is just part of being a functioning adult. But let me ask you, when did exhaustion become the baseline for existence? When did we decide being drained was the price of being valuable? That's not strength. That's slavery with better branding. It's not hustle. It's self-abandonment disguised as success. And most of us are trapped in it. Because here's the ugly truth. If you're not careful, you start wearing your exhaustion like it's part of your identity. You stop introducing yourself with your name and start introducing yourself with your schedule. I'm busy, I'm slammed, I'm drowning. You're not describing your workload, you're describing your worth. And slowly, without noticing, you build a life where being tired is your entire personality. But deep down, you already know this isn't sustainable. Your body knows, your mind knows, your soul knows, and eventually it will all catch up with you. Chapter 3, the silent symptoms nobody talks about. Here's the problem with burnout. It doesn't announce itself with alarms. It doesn't show up one morning screaming, hey, you're burned out. It creeps. It slips in quietly. And it disguises itself so well that half the time you don't even realize you're in it until you're neck deep. People think burnout means you collapse at work. You quit suddenly. You break down crying at your desk. But that's not how it starts. Burnout starts in the shadows. It starts with little cracks that nobody sees. It's when you wake up already tired. Before your feet even hit the floor, you feel like your soul has already clocked out. It's when your laugh doesn't sound like your laugh anymore. You force it. You fake it. And no one notices because on the outside, you still look fine. It's when you can't sit in silence without reaching for your phone because the quiet feels unbearable. So you scroll and scroll and scroll, not because you're enjoying it, but because facing your own thoughts feels heavier than wasting 3 hours on nonsense videos. It's when you snap at people you actually love, not because they did something huge, but because you're living at zero capacity. One more question, one more request, one more tiny demand, and suddenly you explode, then hate yourself after. It's when your memory starts failing. You forget little things. You lose track of conversations. You walk into a room and forget why. And you joke about it. Haha, my brain's fried. But it's not funny. It's your system quietly shutting down. And here's the scariest part. Burnout doesn't make you stop. Burnout makes you numb. And numbness is worse than pain, because at least pain reminds you you're alive. Numbness is when you stop caring. You stop dreaming. You stop looking forward to anything. Life becomes grayscale. Every day feels like a repeat of the last. You're living, but not really. You're existing, functioning, ghosting through your own life. That's the part no one talks about. Burnout isn't just exhaustion, it's erosion. It's you, piece by piece, losing yourself without even noticing until one day you look in the mirror and you don't recognize who's staring back. And the world will still call you strong, reliable, hardworking, but only you know the truth, that what you've really become is empty. Chapter 4, Why Normal Rest Never Works. Most people think burnout can be solved with rest. Take a weekend off, sleep in, book a vacation. You hear it all the time. Just recharge. But that's the biggest scam of all. Because rest doesn't fix burnout. Rest only recharges the body. Burnout lives deeper than that. Think about it like debt. Rest is making the minimum payment on a massive credit card bill. It keeps the collectors off your back for a few days, but the balance doesn't move. The interest keeps stacking. And sooner or later, the whole thing comes crashing down. That's why you can sleep 12 hours and still wake up exhausted. That's why you can take a week off, sit on a beach, and still feel heavy when you get home. That's why some people quit their jobs thinking it'll save them, and then find themselves burned out in the new one too. Because rest doesn't fix the root. The root of burnout isn't lack of sleep. It's lack of alignment. It's spending your life on things that drain you instead of fuel you. It's pouring your energy into work that doesn't matter to you. It's saying yes to everyone and everything, while your own soul starves in the corner. Here's what nobody wants to admit. Sleep doesn't heal an unhappy life. A nap won't fix an identity crisis. A vacation won't erase years of ignoring your limits. Rest is like putting a fresh coat of paint on a collapsing house. It looks better, but the foundation is still rotting. And if you've ever felt that, if you've ever woken up after resting and still felt dead inside, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because burnout isn't just your body begging for sleep, it's your spirit begging for change. That's why people confuse exhaustion with emptiness. They think, I just need a break. But what they really need is a shift. Not time off, but a different way of living. Not more sleep, but more meaning. Until you face that truth, no amount of naps, coffee, or vacations will save you. You'll just keep dragging yourself through the same cycle. Recharge, drain, recharge, drain. Like a broken phone plugged into a charger that never quite works. That's not recovery, that's survival mode. And survival mode isn't living, it's just waiting for the next crash. Chapter 5, The Energy Leak Nobody Sees. Here's the thing about burnout. Most of it doesn't come from the obvious stuff. It's not just the workload, the deadlines, the endless tasks. The killers are the leaks you don't notice. The tiny cuts that bleed you out quietly until one day you wake up and realize you're empty. Think about your phone. It's not the one big app that kills your battery. It's the 100 little apps running in the background. Notifications, pop-ups, random processes you didn't even start. That's your life. You're not just drained by what you're doing. You're drained by what you're tolerating. Let's break it down. The first leak. People. The conversations you don't want to have, but force yourself through. The friend who only calls when they need something. The coworker who dumps their stress on you like you're a trash bin. The family member who guilt trips you for not being available 24/7. Every interaction you don't want is an invisible withdrawal from your energy account. The second leak. Your phone. The constant buzzing, the dopamine slot machine you carry in your pocket. You pick it up just for a minute, and suddenly it's an hour later and you feel worse than before. You didn't gain knowledge. You didn't rest. You just let your attention get sliced into tiny, useless fragments. And here's the trick. You think you're resting when you're scrolling, but you're not. You're exhausting yourself with junk stimulation. It's like eating chips when you're starving. Fills you but never feeds you. The third leak. Clutter. Not just physical clutter, but mental clutter. That pile of laundry you keep stepping over, that to-do list in your head with 20 unfinished items. The email you've been avoiding for weeks. Every unresolved thing is like a tab left open in your brain. And you know what happens when you leave too many tabs open. The system slows. The system freezes and eventually crash. The fourth leak. Pretending. Pretending you're okay when you're not. pretending you're interested when you're bored, pretending to like a life that's quietly killing you. The mask eats more energy than the truth ever will. And the scary part? You've worn it so long you don't even know where the mask ends and you begin. The fifth leak, guilt. The way you punish yourself for needing a break. The way you can't enjoy resting because your brain won't stop whispering about everything you should be doing instead. Guilt is an energy vampire. It makes sure that even when you're sitting still, you're still being drained. Now here's why this matters. Burnout isn't just about what you're doing, it's about what you're leaking. And if you don't find the leaks, you can rest for a month and still feel empty. Because the moment you step back into the same leaky life, you start draining all over again. So here's the unfair advantage. Don't just ask, how do I recharge? Ask, where am I leaking? Because once you find the leaks, you don't have to recharge as often. You don't have to fight so hard to keep going. Energy saved is energy earned. And cutting leaks gives you more power than any motivational hack ever could. And trust me, once you start seeing them, you can't unsee them. Every fake yes, every pointless scroll, every unfinished task haunting the back of your mind. Once you notice the leaks, you realize you weren't weak all along. You were just bleeding energy into holes that didn't deserve it. Chapter 6. Addition by subtraction. Most people think the solution to burnout is adding more. More productivity hacks. More morning routines, more supplements, more planners, more apps, more rules. And every single one of those things sounds smart in theory. But in reality, they just become another item on your already overloaded to-do list. Another weight on the pile. Another reason to feel like you're failing when you can't keep up with it all. Here's the truth that feels almost unfair. Energy is not about addition. It's about subtraction. You don't get your life back by adding more fuel. You get it back by sealing the leaks. Think of it like a bucket. If the bucket has holes, it doesn't matter how much water you pour in, it drains out anyway. Motivation, caffeine, time off, all temporary water. What you really need is to patch the holes. That's subtraction. That's the unfair advantage nobody talks about. Let me show you what subtraction actually looks like. It's saying no without guilt. It's looking at that request, that obligation, that extra task, and saying, not this time, not me, not today. It's understanding that every yes to something meaningless is a no to your own sanity. It's deleting the apps that make you feel worse instead of better. It's unfollowing the accounts that secretly trigger your insecurity. It's realizing that you don't need to know what every stranger on the internet is doing today. It's clearing the clutter you've been ignoring. The pile in the corner, the projects half done, the little messes that eat at you quietly every time you walk by. Because your brain keeps score, even when you pretend it doesn't. It's letting go of people who drain more than they give. The friend who never asks how you're doing. The coworker who thrives on chaos and drags you into it. The family member who uses guilt like currency. Subtraction means cutting the cord, not because you're cruel, but because your peace is worth more than their noise. Subtraction is freedom, and once you experience it, you'll never go back. Because suddenly you realize how much of your exhaustion wasn't from the big things, but from the thousand small things you never had the courage to cut. And here's the paradox. Once you start subtracting, you gain. You gain clarity. You gain time. You gain energy you didn't even know you had. And from the outside, it looks unfair, like you've unlocked some secret advantage no one else can figure out. While they're drowning in obligations, you're light. While they're sprinting toward collapse, you're pacing yourself with energy left in the tank. That's why addition by subtraction feels so powerful. It's not glamorous. It doesn't get applause. Nobody's clapping when you say no. Nobody's impressed when you delete an app. Nobody's giving you a standing ovation for cleaning out your closet. But you don't do subtraction for applause. You do it for survival. And survival is the foundation for thriving. Because here's the hidden truth. Real strength isn't about how much you can carry. It's about how much unnecessary weight you have the courage to put down. Chapter 7. Learning to work like a marathoner, not a sprinter. Most people approach life like it's a sprint. They go hard, fast, and loud. They brag about speed. They post their hustle like a highlight reel. They run themselves into the ground trying to outwork everyone. But here's the problem with sprinting. It's unsustainable. Nobody sprints forever. Eventually, you collapse. And by the time you hit the ground, the steady marathoner has passed you, still jogging, still going, still alive. Life isn't about who burns brightest for a moment. It's about who lasts. But we don't like to hear that. We love the sprinter story, the all-nighter, the grind, the caffeine-fueled week of unstoppable productivity. And yeah, sprinters look impressive at the start, but scroll forward a little bit. Look at them after mile 10, after mile 20. They're done, they're gone. They burned out their spark trying to impress people who stopped watching after the first lap. The marathoner? They look boring, steady, consistent. Nothing flashy, no highlight reel. But they win, they last. They keep showing up when the sprinters have vanished. That's the game nobody tells you about. Outlasting beats outworking. Now, here's the trick. Switching from sprinter mode to marathon mode feels weird at first, because you've been trained to believe that going slower is weak, that pacing yourself means you're falling behind. But in reality, pacing is power. Pacing is what lets you stay in the game long enough to actually build something that matters. Ask yourself, are you burning out trying to sprint a marathon? Because that's what most people are doing. They try to live life like it's a short dash, when in reality, it's a long, brutal distance. And the winners aren't the ones who sprint. They're the ones who master recovery, sustainability, and rhythm. And if you want to get real about this, this is where I always tell people, go deeper. Because there's only so much you can pick up in a video before your brain moves on. That's why on the website, linked in the description, I put together ebooks that dig into this exact problem. Things like pacing, energy, boundaries, stuff that takes this surface-level talk and turns it into step-by-step change. And yeah, if you ever grab one, just use the code WISEJOE for a little discount. Not because I'm pushing it on you, but because if you're here listening to this at 2 a.m., I already know you're the kind of person who needs more than a quick hit of motivation. You need a roadmap. Because here's the truth. Anyone can sprint for a moment. But the unfair advantage? That belongs to the people who learn how to run slow, steady, and forever. The ones who master the boring rhythm that nobody claps for. The ones who still have energy left when everyone else has collapsed. That's not weakness. That's mastery. Chapter 8. Burnout as a compass, not a curse. Here's the twist nobody tells you. Burnout isn't just an enemy. Burnout is a signal. It's a compass pointing at the exact parts of your life that are breaking you down. Most people treat burnout like a curse. Something to hide, something to push through. But the truth? Burnout is feedback. Brutal feedback. The kind you can't ignore. Think about it. Your body doesn't randomly shut down. Your mind doesn't randomly go numb. Burnout shows up with a message. This isn't working. Something here is killing you. Something here is draining your spark faster than you can refill it. And instead of listening, we usually do the opposite. We numb. We push harder. We drown it out with coffee, with scrolling, with distractions. But the signal doesn't go away. It gets louder. Burnout is your soul raising its hand and saying, hey, the way we're living, it's not sustainable. It's not just stress. Stress is short-term. Stress comes and goes. Burnout is chronic. Burnout is the alarm system you've been snoozing for years. Look at where you feel most burned out. Is it work? Is it certain relationships? Is it the way you talk to yourself in your own head? Wherever the burnout is, that's the compass. That's the flashing arrow pointing straight at what's out of alignment. If work drains you more than it feeds you, that's not just stress. That's a sign. If you feel more exhausted leaving your friendships than you do showing up, that's not normal. That's a sign. If scrolling for hours leaves you empty but you can't stop, that's not laziness. That's a sin. And here's the beautiful but uncomfortable truth. Burnout forces honesty. It strips away all your excuses. You can't keep pretending you're fine when your body says otherwise. You can't keep acting like you're happy when your spirit is dried out. Burnout demands that you face yourself. And once you shift that perspective, everything changes. You stop seeing burnout as punishment, and you start seeing it as instruction. You stop asking, why me? And you start asking, what is this trying to tell me? That question alone can change everything. Because the people who get ahead in life aren't the ones who never burn out. They're the ones who learn how to read it, to treat burnout like a compass, to adjust before collapse, to use the signal as fuel for change. That's the unfair advantage. Most people will burn out and break down. But you're going to burn out and level up. Not because you like it, not because it's easy, but because you chose to see the signal instead of hiding from it. Chapter 9. Tools that actually heal, not just patch. Here's the part you've been waiting for. How do you actually fix burnout? Not just patch it, not just cover it up with band-aids like caffeine, Netflix binges, or a weekend nap that barely scratches the surface. I'm talking about tools that actually heal. The first one is micro-rest. Not the kind of rest you schedule once a year when you finally collapse on a vacation. I mean, tiny recoveries baked into your day. 5 minutes of silence in your car before walking into work. 10 minutes with your phone off before bed. Standing up, stretching, breathing for 60 seconds between tasks. It sounds small, but stacked over time, it rebuilds you. Because recovery isn't always about hours, it's about rhythm. The second tool, strategic boredom. Most people can't handle it. The moment there's silence, they reach for a screen. But boredom is where your brain resets. It's like a defrag button for your mind. Go for a walk without headphones. Wash the dishes without a podcast. Sit on a bench and do nothing. At first, it feels uncomfortable, even unbearable. But on the other side of that discomfort is clarity. The third tool, subtraction, which we talked about before. But here's the practical version. Cut one thing, just one. One obligation, one app, one meeting, one fake friendship. Pick the one that feels heaviest and cut it. Watch how much lighter you feel instantly. Then do it again. Healing isn't always about adding. Sometimes it's about creating space. The fourth tool, saying no like it's medicine, because it is. Every no you give is oxygen. It's freedom. It's time. And if you've been burning out for years, your no muscle is probably weak. Start small. Say no to the extra call, the extra shift, the extra obligation that drains you. Protect your energy like it's gold, because it is. The fifth tool, digital detoxing. Not forever, not in some monk-like retreat, but at least once a week and go a few hours without the endless feed of noise. Turn off notifications. Put the phone in another room. Let your nervous system remember what calm feels like. You'll be shocked how much your brain thanks you. The sixth tool, movement without pressure. Not workouts for aesthetics, not chasing PRS, not punishing yourself for how you look. Move your body because movement releases the stress your mind can't process. Walk, stretch, dance in your kitchen. Do something that reminds your body it's alive and not just a machine for producing. And here's one more that feels unfairly powerful. Reclaim mornings and nights. Not with a perfect 5 a.m. routine or a strict bedtime ritual. I mean simple ownership. No phone the first 20 minutes after waking up. No phone the last 20 minutes before sleeping. Guard those edges of your day like treasure, because they set the tone for everything in between. These tools aren't glamorous. Nobody's going to clap when you sit in silence for 5 minutes or delete an app. But that's the point. Healing isn't flashy. It's quiet. It's invisible. It's unfair because most people won't do it. They'll keep chasing quick fixes and wondering why nothing changes. You're going to stack small, unglamorous tools until you're untouchable. That's how you turn burnout into resilience. Chapter 10, the midpoint mirror. Let's stop for a second. Not move on, not rush, just stop. Because if you're still listening right now, it probably means this isn't just entertainment for you. It means you feel it. Somewhere in your chest, somewhere in your bones, you know this is your life we're talking about. So let me ask you straight. When was the last time you actually felt alive? Not functioning, not surviving, not running on autopilot. Alive. When was the last time you laughed without faking it, rested without guilt, woke up excited for something instead of dreading it? Be honest with yourself. Maybe it's been weeks, maybe months, maybe years. And the scariest thing is you got so good at pretending everything was fine that even you started to believe it. That's how burnout wins. It makes you numb enough to call survival normal. This is your mirror moment, the one most people avoid. Because once you face it, you can't go back to pretending. You can't unsee the truth. You've been carrying too much for too long, and it's not weakness. It's not failure. It's not you being broken. It's you being human. And the human body, the human mind, the human heart, they all have limits. And here's the thing. If this is hitting you right now, don't just nod and move on. Pause, breathe, sit with it, let it sink in. And if you want to make sure you don't lose this reminder tomorrow when life gets loud again, hit subscribe or save this. Not because I care about numbers, but because I know how easy it is to forget the truth once the noise comes back. Think of it like leaving yourself a note, a message from you right now to the future you who might need to hear this all over again. Because this is not just a video. This is your reflection. And once you see yourself clearly, you can't pretend anymore. You've got two choices. Keep ignoring the signs until collapse, or start changing the game while you still can. Chapter 11. The power of secret communities. Here's one of the most unfair truths about burnout. You can't fix it alone. You can start alone, yeah. You can make changes, set boundaries, practice subtraction. But long term, you need people, the right people. Because burnout doesn't just come from overwork, it comes from isolation, from carrying everything without anyone to share the weight. Think about it. Most of your exhaustion isn't just tasks, it's the loneliness of feeling like no one else gets what you're going through. You smile at coworkers while dying inside, you nod at family who don't understand, you scroll through feeds full of highlight reels and wonder why you're the only one crumbling. That loneliness multiplies the burnout. Now flip it. When you get around people who actually understand, people who are serious about growth, about energy, about playing the long game, suddenly the weight feels lighter. You hear someone say the thing you've been too scared to admit, and boom, you're not alone anymore. You realize the problem wasn't just you, it was the environment you were stuck in. That's why secret communities are powerful. They give you perspective, they give you accountability, they give you strategies that aren't in some basic self-help blog. And more importantly, they remind you that you're not crazy for feeling drained in a world that worships burnout. You're just awake. That's the whole reason I built the Wise Joe Private Club. Not for everyone, not for people who just want a quick motivational quote and then go back to doom scrolling, but for people who are serious about growth, people who are done playing the burnout game and want to play life on a different level. Inside, we go deeper into the exact strategies, the unfair advantages, the things most people aren't ready to hear. It's not about hype. It's about sharpening yourself alongside people who get it. And here's the unfair advantage. When you change your environment, you change your life. One good conversation with the right person can do more for you than 100 YouTube videos because it rewires how you see yourself. And once you see yourself differently, you start living differently. So if you've been carrying all of this alone, maybe it's time to stop. Maybe the strongest thing you can do is admit you need people around you who won't let you collapse. Because burnout thrives in silence, but it dies in community. Chapter 12, the closing truth bomb. Here's the truth you were never supposed to know. Handling burnout so well it feels unfair isn't about grinding harder. It isn't about stacking more hacks or finding more discipline. It's about playing a different game entirely. While everyone else is sprinting to collapse, while everyone else is patching holes in their life with caffeine and fake smiles, while everyone else is chasing applause that secretly feels hollow, you've just been handed the playbook no one else is reading. And that's what makes it unfair. Because once you see burnout for what it really is, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to clapping for exhaustion. You can't lie to yourself and say, this is normal. You can't convince yourself that suffering is strength, that collapse is achievement, that numbness is a badge of honor. Once you see the truth, it changes you. And knowing the truth, that's power. Most people will never see it. They'll spend their entire lives flexing their exhaustion, mistaking pain for progress. They'll brag about being busy. They'll laugh about being tired. They'll normalize their emptiness until emptiness is all they know. And when it finally swallows them whole, nobody will even notice because everyone else is drowning too. That's the default path. That's the world's game. But you're not on the default anymore. You're not playing their game. You're ahead. You're awake. You see the invisible game behind the game. You see that exhaustion isn't the price of success. It's the tax for living wrong. You see that collapse isn't destiny. It's a warning sign. You see that burnout isn't the end. It's the beginning of change. And that's why it feels unfair. Because once you cut the leaks, once you learn to pace like a marathoner, once you start treating burnout as a compass instead of a curse, you stop surviving and you start thriving. You stop being the ghost in your own story. You return to being the author. You come back alive, and people will notice. They won't understand it. They'll see you calm while they're drowning. They'll see you steady while they're spiraling. They'll see you energized while they're empty. And they'll whisper, what's their secret? They'll assume you found some magic formula. They'll think you stumbled onto something they can't explain, and in a way they're right. But it's not a formula. It's a shift, a perspective most people will never be ready to make. One you were. So here's the final truth bomb. Burnout isn't a death sentence, it's an invitation. An invitation to stop playing the world's broken game. An invitation to protect your spark so fiercely that you outlast everyone who tried to outwork you. An invitation to step into the rare circle of people who figured it out. And if you take that invitation, you'll join the tiny group of people who live differently. who move quietly, who thrive invisibly, who grow in silence while the rest of the world burns itself out chasing noise. And when you stand in that group, you'll feel it. You'll feel the unfair advantage. Because here's the secret. You're no longer one of the tired ones. You're no longer one of the ghosts. You're one of the awake ones, the alive ones, the rare ones. And the world isn't ready for that version of you. But you are.